right, well, welcome everybody. Let's bring this meeting to order. It's January 14th, 2025, Board of Library Trustees. First up on our agenda is the consent agenda. And does anyone have any discussion they'd like to bring to the table or questions about the consent agenda?
Yeah, I got one.
Okay.
Used to be we had to sign a paper for it. How come we don't do that anymore?
Since I've been here, we haven't had any
No,
signing
it
papers
just
for it.
occurred to me, we always had to pass it
remember
on,
when
sign
we first
it.
You're
started
dating
this,
yourself.
I know that, yes, but it's hard to hide that, you know.
Why is that?
I don't know what that practice was, honestly.
Yeah, I
I can go
remember.
back and see if
I
I can
remember.
find it.
Yeah, we
did
had a big
started-
fat book,
Yeah.
Yep.
yeah, and we had to sign, right?
I think it was back in the early days when they were suspicious that the consent agenda was a way to put over not giving us enough time to deliberate things. We
Well,
have
they
to
did
worry
that at
about
town meeting,
long.
that was a different thing. This was that book, and Charlotte would say, you know, and then we'd all have to sign it, and then that,
Perhaps I know that for a time, every warrant was signed. Maybe
Yeah.
That's what it was, Casey?
It used to include the material expenditure for the month. So it was
Okay.
every invoice that was
Every
paid for.
invoice.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So because you started receiving the financial documents, that was canned in
Suspended.
practice.
okay. I just was curious.
That's
All right,
Good point.
I move we accept the
great.
consent
Can I
agenda.
have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor of accepting the consent agenda? Aye. All right, great. Fantastic. Well, I have the pleasure this evening of welcoming James Perlman to give us his report. Well, I guess to add on to the already lengthy report that is in the, but go ahead, James.
For sure. Thank you and
Thank
welcome.
you.
I will try to keep it short. As George mentioned, I have a lot going on. But really just wanted to go over some of the notable achievements from 2024. First of all, we pretty much concluded the redesign of the website. Thanks to Lydia and the WebForce team for helping with that and engaging in the process and the rebuilding of the website. It was a lot of work, but I think we've come up with a really good product, and I'll do a brief demonstration after I get some of these bullet points done. So that includes a new Center for Early Childhood Education page and a new children's landing page. And thanks to Kate Teague for facilitating my work with Liz and her team to bring the CFCE into our web environment, and for her help in designing the new children's department landing page, which is really a tremendous improvement over what was there before. As well, and thanks to Lydia and Carla for their help in reaching this milestone, was we redesigned the homepage of the website as well, which was a little bit overcluttered previously and was kind of an amalgam of different things, and we've kind of tightened it up and made it look a lot better and more efficient. So that was a really big milestone. And then we've also added a new seed library, thanks to Liz and her team on Reference for bringing that to fruition. And in increasing security for the website as well, we've also increased multi-factor authentication for logging into the back end, so that the back end of our website and website management can't be hacked. And we've also made numerous accessibility improvements and so forth, with improving font size and font colors and contrast ratios throughout the website. But really the big thing, the one I wanted to demo, is the recent addition of the new community resources menu items. It was previously up there as an accordion page where you could expand the different resource lists. But that resource list became so populated and so large that I met with Liz and her team, and we decided to move that to a separate program menu in the top level menu items and expand that. And I'll just briefly demonstrate that for you right now on the website.
And when you say new, just how new is this?
Very new. Just went live yesterday.
That's
with
right.
the redesign.
It's very exciting.
The community resources were there for about 3 months previously, but it was just getting,
Yeah,
like I
I've
said,
seen
so
it.
large
Oh, right.
that we had to do something. It was just inefficient and inaccessible. So right up here, I'll just show you the new tab, the new information. So that's right here. That's the resources tab on the top level menu. And it's an extensive list of different resources, all community help and community engagement and state and local resources for all types of different services for the community, such as elder services, domestic violence support, civic and educational needs, health needs, and legal services. So it's all there, and I encourage you to all check it out. It's going to be a really tremendous and powerful resource for members of our community, and Liz and other members of the reference team have already been directing people here to access these resources.
Oh, great.
So it's really come in handy, and with its new menu location here as a separate entity unto itself, I think we'll have a lot of good use of that space and that stuff. What was there before was the link to catalog and account, and in keeping with standard library tradition, we moved the catalog and account link up to the upper right page. And that's what you'll find on every academic and public library website, is that the catalog and account link is up on the top side. So that's just a little bit about the website.
Great.
And
James?
while I'm standing,
Before you leave, the community resources, about how many items are there?
there are 8 menu items currently, and of those 8 menu items, some of them are subdivided into some tabs with like resources
I was hoping that would be the case.
on the page. Yep. So it's very good. I encourage you to check it out.
Yeah, that looks
Very cool.
Yeah.
And while I'm standing, I'll just stay here. We've made, for hardware and software, we've added some new laptops, moved the Chromebooks into the loaner programs, because the new laptops will have much more functionality. They're Windows 11 machines, they have Office on them, so that replaces a lot of the functionality that Chromebooks didn't have and brings those computers into the public use area. We've also installed a new library server for the staff, which was a huge victory for us and a tremendous improvement over the old server, which was no longer supported and was getting very long in the tooth. So that was a tremendous benefit for us. We've got a new self-check system in the circulation area, replacing the old Windows 7 machine, which we were able to upgrade to Windows 10, but the hardware was not quite acceptable, so we've got that with the new Windows 11 machine. And I also worked with Kirsty and Norma in the literacy department to determine needs for and approve the purchase of the Kurzweil 3000 accessibility and learning software for one of their machines, so that was tremendous. We've also expanded Museum Pass availability to all the patrons in our library patron base, not just to Norwood residents. And I worked with Michael and some folks at our Museum Pass Management Service, Assabet, to determine appropriate fields and to remove the checking for if someone was a Norwood resident to be able to borrow our museum passes. So now anyone who's a member of Minuteman Library Network can utilize that service and benefit from those museum passes.
Great.
So it's been really a great benefit for folks. And then another big thing is that we've managed to transition all of our Windows 10 machines to Windows 11 because Microsoft is ending support for Windows 10 on October of this year, which means there will no longer be any security or bug fixes or updates for Windows 10. So that was an important move to get those in up to Windows 11. So if anyone is listening and you have a Windows 10 laptop, you should take advantage of the free upgrade to Windows 11, which you can manage through your Windows Update service on your machine.
Oh,
Yep, and it's pretty similar. It's not really a huge change in the architecture. It's just some graphical design changes and stability improvements. But other than that, I would really encourage you to go to Windows 11 if you can. So we've also had some environmental monitoring tools that we've been using for about the past 2 years. And those have been very beneficial in sending both Clayton and I emails about temperatures in different certain areas of the library where we have valuable materials stored, such as in this room, some of the archival materials, as well as in our compact storage downstairs, and then in the reading room, the Pushing reading room downstairs. And we receive temperature alerts based on a certain parameter configuration. So if the temperature goes above that, we get an alert. If it's below that, we get an alert. And also we're monitoring the humidity in these areas. So if you get an excessive dampness or excessive dryness, which is not good for any books or any of the other materials, we get alerted to that as well. And it's been very informative. It's not been a distraction. Those emails come a couple a day, and we just check them, and they're generally okay. But they do occasionally indicate to us some significant temperature rise or humidity increase. So that's a very good thing. I also worked with Lydia and the Space Force team on reconfiguring. This was part of a duty of my work with the accessibility team, was to reconfigure the computer area down at the circulation desk region there, that was next to the circ desk, and to provide a lower table for access to the public use computer. And so I worked with the Space Force on figuring out a way to move that computer to a lower table and condense that area into an island for copying and so forth, and that came out really well as well. And in keeping with the accessibility team, you've all noticed, I'm sure, the high visibility step markers on the steps. That was a really big improvement, and we've received a lot of positive feedback about those because they were very hard to see in low light situations, and the definition of the steps, if you have some eyesight problems, you can't really see the definition because they're all black. So adding those markers really helped. And we've also got 2 accessibility devices that were just sitting in storage that we've managed to place into the adult reference area, and those have been used as well as a document magnifier as well as a document reader. And those have been very helpful to patrons. We had a couple of patrons who have come in very intensely for several nights or several weeks on end to use the document magnifier. So those devices are getting used, and that's terrific. I've also worked with Darshana, our outreach librarian, on a series of computer training classes for neurodiverse adult learners. Just basic computer skill courses, and Darshana has been teaching those courses, and I've been making sure that she has all the software and hardware that she needs to conduct those classes effectively. So that's been really great. And then kind of my big point for the evening, which I'm really pleased with and really happy about, is the accounting, the inventory, setup, and testing of some newly available high-end audio production equipment, which we'll be using in developing an audio and video maker group program, which will involve training, instruction, usage of the materials, and will thus also, for anyone who has gone through the training, since this is very high-end and expensive stuff, this will also vet people and get people into a permission structure for being able to borrow this equipment and take it out and use it to record podcasts and audio and video and that sort of thing. And I've made a quick little sample audio file that I can play for you all. It's 2 minutes long, so it's short, but just gives a sampling of what we can do with this new high-end technology, audio.
Should we grab the board so everybody can see that too, James?
What's that?
Should we grab the
Okay.
board that you used?
Yeah, you can pass that around. It's fairly light, it's not heavy, so feel free to pass that around. That's the mixing board with which we can connect all the
And
microphones.
kudos to James for making this like upon my command, because I think it's so cool.
It was really
So
yeah.
here, this is a little audio sample, so just bear with me here of what you can do with it.
This is, I see this in Morel Moments. Yeah. Clapping. Frightening noise.
Welcome to the Memorial Library Podcast. The Memorial Library is the free public lending library of the town of Norwood, Massachusetts.
So cute.
Within its walls, borrowers can access over 93,300 physical items, including books, DVDs, audiobooks, and objects, including games, tools, and electronics. The library also hosts an extensive collection of downloadable ebooks and audiobooks, streaming video and music, and online databases. Every year, hundreds of programs take place in the library, including lectures, concerts, and children's story times. Please enjoy the library to stay out of the frightful cold weather this season. Our study rooms are often fully booked. So please reserve your room ahead of time. Tune in next month for another exciting MML podcast.
All right. Yay.
Good afternoon.
All right.
That sounds great.
Yeah. So that was all done in real time. I didn't insert those sounds and mix the tracks. I was hitting those buttons, that
Yeah.
series of buttons on the control panel to come with some pre-recorded sound
Yeah.
bites and clips. And we can also get our own sounds and put them in the device and use those as well. Like maybe a tire screeching would be a good one for like, whoa, hold the phone, you know, stop. Tire screeching. But it's a lot of fun, and I'm really looking forward to getting this program off the ground and providing it to the community, because we got 4 of these microphones. You can feel free to pass them around. It's fairly heavy. This is really high-end audio equipment microphone. It's
And they
fairly
have,
heavy.
They have like a clip or something, so
Yep.
you.
We have a
Like
swing
Liz and
arm that
James
you
had-
can mount the microphones on, and
Yeah.
you've seen that all in the picture, I think, from my
Sure,
previous
yeah.
ones before.
Yeah.
So it's really cool. It's a lot of fun.
It looks like, yeah, when you watch like the video of a podcast, and like we set it, James and Liz set it up and tried it out in one of the study rooms, and it was like, it looked really
At home.
professional.
It's a nice mic.
Till we go
Yeah,
down
it's
to
good
supper.
equipment.
So we went over the points really quickly, but if anyone has any questions or anything, feel free to let me know. Yes, John?
I've got a couple that are mainly to add some detail for clarity for the folks at home. You mentioned the audio video maker group. What's the group?
Well, we haven't formed the group yet, but it's going to be a program that's going to bring people in. We're going to advertise this, and they're going to be in, and they're going to be part of, once they've been trained, they'll be part of this audio video maker group. And that group's members will have permissions to use the equipment and borrow the equipment and take it out of the library or use it here.
So it's not limited to library staff? Or
No, not at all.
It's
absolutely
anybody
for the
in
community.
Norwood.
Yep, certainly.
My other question is seed library. Can you explain a little more about what that is?
Absolutely. That was an initiative that was started by the reference department, and a lot of other libraries. This is becoming a very popular initiative amongst public libraries and some other libraries. You see the seed libraries popping up all over the place, and what it is it's a whole bunch of instruction and information about certain types of plants, how to plant them, when to plant them, and how to recover those seeds and regain those seeds so you can bring them back to the library and then push them forward and have this sustainable growth and seed and planting environment.
So it's not what I originally thought it was, which is that we have a collection of seeds, and here's a library guide to where each seed is located physically in the library.
No,
It's
it's
actually-
more like
It's that too, though.
yeah, it's that too. Yeah,
Is it?
Yeah,
absolutely.
we have-
it
if
kind
you-
of it takes all of that into account, but it's more of more an involved and an active program than kind of like here's where these seeds are, here's where these seeds are. It's something to involve the community, to engage our library members, give them something to do and interact with the library, and also to kind of promote the sustainable approach.
Do we have a plan or an approach to adding additional seeds, like targets, things we particularly want to get?
Right now, it's really, there's an initiative. There's folks from the Conservation Commission that have been partnering with us on this as well. So Carly Rockland and who else am I? There's another person whose name I'm forgetting right now, who have helped us with the development of the seed library. And there were some grants that came through to help and make it happen. And so we've had a number of programs, and people can watch the calendar for opportunities to get involved. We had a very popular program just at the beginning of the year on sowing winter seeds. And I know we have a collection of seeds that are perfect for winter sowing. So I was actually just browsing the seed library earlier today. So I encourage people to go and see the kales, the hardy greens that can still be sustained. And then soon people are going to want to be starting to sprout so that they can plant them outside again once the weathers get warm again.
Yeah. It's also tremendously educational too, because if you're not aware of a seed, we have links there that take you to descriptions of the plants and what they do and how they grow and what's their season and everything like that. So it's really full-bodied and really effective.
Thanks.
Sure. Yes.
I have a question on the resources tab and, how you determine what to feature. Was it that you had a lot of this information that didn't have a home? Did you do a comparative of other libraries to see what type of resources were made available? And I do this because I classify a lot of content for and so I'm just curious what the origin and just doing a quick look at some other libraries. It seems to be a lot of variety in the types of things that get surfaced and featured, and maybe something like tax help isn't there, or there's a few things that I've seen. So I'm just curious on what your methodology was to determine what to
If I
feature.
may.
Yeah. I mean, that was mostly an initiative that was handled by Liz and the reference staff, and I did the design and put it into the
Yep.
website. But yeah, I think that was their approach. They looked at other libraries, they saw these seed libraries popping up and thought this would be a great idea to do here at our library as well. And it's kind of grown organically since the inception of the program, and we've added many more seeds and we've added more categories, and it just keeps growing.
Okay,
Which is
I was
terrific.
referring to the resources, not the seed library, but thank you.
That was also Liz's team that did the community resources.
Yeah.
And I know
Yeah.
it's a combination of, I'm sure they looked at other resources and other libraries to see what resources are being shared. They also had their own, list that we've been referring to people, so I'm sure it was a lot of taking existing knowledge and just organizing it and making it more accessible. But certainly when Liz comes, we can ask her, or I can talk to her and see if she can share some more about that, because I'm sure she'd be happy to talk to you about it.
Yeah, love to see, like, maybe there's maybe one or two that might
Yeah.
be added.
It's also, it's continually evolving. I'm sure we will see new resources added to it on a regular basis. It's as they've been working on it, it just expanded, and there was new content being added as it went live today. So it's
This is the kind of thing that can get really, really unwieldy.
Well, yeah.
And I think James's role was sort of to, provide like the visual structure and kind of like guide the reference team on, some ways to organize the things and like make the fields consistent and make it all make sense. And I know, like they, might kind of have a brainstorm of like we should do this, but then you have to think about it like, okay, what do you literally want this to be called? And then what do you want? What are the things like focusing on, precisely what do you want here?
So I'd be interested to help or hear about the governance, because it can be it can get really unwieldy and things become broken because phone numbers change or whatever.
Right.
So,
Yeah, both of these initiatives with the Seed Library and the community resources are things that Liz and the reference team have seen in other libraries around the environment and so forth, so they brought them to my attention and said, hey, could we do this? How can we design it? Let's bring it in, let's get it up on the website. So.
Now would be a really good time to try to break it, go in and use it, see if it makes sense, see if you can find what you
Absolutely.
need.
When I was
the
at
Seed Library link, by the way, is under the reference and research.
on the same topic, when I was still at NFPA, we got involved in applying a professional taxonomy expert to the development of our website. And this is where the number of items is not 8, it's 800 or 8,000. And it takes a lot of thinking to figure out what's a user-friendly way of having you find your way to where you want through a succession of higher and lower. And I'm just wondering, you're not at that point yet, but,
Not at 8,000
but that
items,
organically
certainly not.
grown comment suggests that you could get there sooner than you realize. And I'm wondering if you might want to bring in someone with taxonomy expertise. I know those people often are associated with libraries.
I was going to say, those are typically librarians.
Yeah, they were at
That's
NFPA.
also a
Information
field
management.
in which I'm very well educated and well versed in terms of metadata, because taxonomy is another part of metadata
Right.
and the structure of the information that you provide. So in addition to the web design skills, I bring to the table that understanding of taxonomy and of metadata structure and how to present that information in a most useful way. Yes.
I have 3 questions, different subjects. One is about the museum passes. Does that mean we can use other people's passes, other towns? The next one is, do you have an age limit on the audio maker thing?
I think for the audio maker thing, an age limit would probably be 18 or 17, something like that,
Okay.
as an adult use. So that,
And my
because
last,
we want the adult to be responsible for the equipment as well.
okay, an adult to be
Yeah,
responsible.
I'm not going to ask, a 12-year-old to be responsible for this type of
Okay.
equipment. So.
And my last question is, how do you store the seeds? Some of them need to have temperature things and stuff.
Yeah, most of them, I believe, that's something that probably Liz can answer for you a little bit more thoroughly. But I know from what I've seen right now, they're stored in paper packets
Yeah,
down at the reference
yeah, I
desk.
saw that.
Yeah, and I don't know if they have any other sort of refrigerated or environmentally controlled storage for those.
All right, so museum passes.
Yes,
Okay.
the museum passes, that would be up to other libraries because each library's instance of Acibet is configured uniquely for that particular library. So it would be up to other libraries whether they want to open up their museum pass program to non-residents of their
Have you
town.
seen any of them open?
I have not.
Yes, some of them do. I can't tell you off the top of the head. but
Okay, I just-
It is something, there's both, there's statewide incentives to make them available. When you, as we're doing our reports, our annual ARIS reports, you get a count of circulation, and as part of your collection materials that are circulating, that can freely circulate to anyone in the Commonwealth. So if you have things that you restrict to only your local community, you don't get to count them towards certain statewide statistics. So we are working to encourage more and more libraries to be as inclusive as possible and as sharing as possible.
So would there be a preference
For
if you're a Norwood Library?
for
Norwood.
hold. So if the, we try to, just like with any other materials, if there's a waiting list, we do try to give priority locally. It's a little trickier with museum passes because there's not really waiting lists for museum passes. But yeah,
Okay.
it's the bigger incentive for us is we want to make sure the passes get used. When you know that we have a drawer full of passes and they're just sitting there, and once the date, if they have a date on them, not all of them have dates. All the institutions have different rules, but if they have a date and it just goes by, you're like, oh, there goes more money that just went unused. I'd much rather see someone in Massachusetts appreciate it. Of course, I want to give priority to Norwood people whenever we have that ability, but it kills you to have stuff get unused and just sit there in the drawer.
Alrighty, all good?
Thank you, James.
Yeah,
That was
sure.
great.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Wonderful,
much.
wonderful.
Yeah.
The one thing, James, that you didn't mention is the one-on-one tech help that you also help provide.
yes.
It's just one of the things that I think is really great. Historically, when people needed tech help, I think in the library, they went to the head of IT as the only place. And James has been really good at sharing information and responsibilities with the entire reference department or adult services department, so that every member of the department provides, along with James, one-on-one tech help. So people can go online or they can call us, they can stop in, make an appointment. There's a lot of times people ask, oh, do you have computer classes? And we often find people who want a computer class, they don't really know what they want to learn. It's better to have a conversation one-on-one and figure out what is it that you're specifically trying to accomplish. Let's help you set up, just like with any other research, and have a conversation to help you figure out a focused way to meet your needs. We found that as a much more effective way to meet the needs, and James has been a great part of the team developing and leading that.
Yeah, and I'm sure that you guys have heard, some of you I know have heard from members of the community that those tech help sessions have been extremely helpful, very effective, and also a shout out to Michael Roderick down at CERC, as well as the whole reference team, because I could not do all of this tech help without them. In fact, I take more of the singularly complex issues, and they handle a lot of kind of the standard rote requests that come in, help with the library card and help with streaming video and Canopy. John, if you've been mentioning about streaming video and that sort of thing, we found that these one-on-one sessions have been really helpful in addressing anyone's questions they have about Canopy and streaming media and all those types of other services that we offer too.
I'd just like to emphasize the importance of one of the points here that James was talking about, the redesign of the homepage and the work on the website in general. It has just been absolutely remarkable, the work that you've done. There was really, an initial task force working on, identifying changes that were needed and, stumbling blocks and problems and errors. And then we brought James in once we're ready to start making the changes, and it's just, I don't know how much money a project goes if you have your website redesigned to do the user experience testing and then a complete redesign, but we saved the money, the library tens of thousands of
Yes.
dollars.
And it's
by
work
doing
that
it.
we had to do was work that you have to do when you hire somebody to do the work for you.
Right.
Yeah,
We
so-
would have had to, make a lot of the decisions to tell them and then have them execute it. And it was really amazing, and I think a better outcome to do it in-house. And I'm actually doing a presentation about this process at the Massachusetts Library Association conference this spring.
Good.
so that other libraries can maybe use it as a model. 'Cause we're really proud of it, and James was essential.
Okay, thank you.
And happy to share this experience with anybody who wants to talk about it, because it's really worked well. I'm quite proud of it.
Yeah, we can go way deep into the weeds. If anyone wants to talk about it, I'm happy to sit with you
Is
for
it a
5 hours
WordPress?
and discuss it.
Is it a WordPress
Yeah.
site?
Yes, it's
Yeah.
WordPress. Yeah.
Fantastic. All right, great.
Thank you,
Well,
James.
Yes, thank
Thank
you,
you.
James. Thank you very much.
You know that I always like to take this opportunity
I do.
at the end to just say so much praise and thanks to James for leading the way, for the amount of technical hurdles that you've overcome, the leaps and bounds that you've taken us. We haven't talked about the Wi-Fi and how we have just such great better Wi-Fi access across the building right now because of your work on that. We could spend, I'm sure, the rest of the night talking about the ways that you've made things better here, and it's really been it's wonderful to have you on board, and I know everybody really appreciates all the work that you put in. And IT work is frequently the work that you don't appreciate until something's not working, which means that often you're flying right under the radar. But please know that I know and see you and appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, but
I would like to say that it is always a pleasure to see you in the hall, in the stairway, anywhere. And you're always approachable, and it's always a pleasure because when I ask, what are you doing? It's not too much. It's always, you just always tell me what you're doing, why you're doing it, how you're doing it.
Mhm.
And I get an inside track, on what's going on in the library. I appreciate that so much.
Great.
That
Thank you.
you see me and I see you. Thank
Absolutely.
you very much.
Absolutely.
And
Thank you.
you speak to me in a language that I understand because I really don't understand IT at all. But you make it something that you come down to my level. Thank you.
I try, because sometimes, as Clayton will tell you, I just go way over people's heads.
But
and
if
they're
I
like,
say to you,
what?
what does that mean? Then you go, oh, and you come. So thank you very much, and you're always so kind. Thank
I
you.
was impressed because James told me that he actually climbed up the ladders and installed some of the stuff in the ceiling of the
Yeah.
Simone room. Like, oh
Yeah.
my, where he's not just sitting there going like this.
Yeah, it was a scary moment being up on the ceiling in the Simone room with no hands on the ladder, with an access point.
Stop! I don't want to hear any more of this, James.
No.
But I'm
no
actually
workers'
trained.
comp
I'm
claim.
trained in doing that. properly.
Trained to stay up there, aerial work, right?
Yeah.
Those playgrounds, good training grounds.
Wow.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Fantastic. All right, Clayton, on to reports.
On to reports. On the personnel report, we've had some challenges with some health challenges with some staff that I won't go into to respect the privacy of the personnel. But we have some part-time staff that have really been helping us out in the last month, and I foresee for the next several weeks at least. We're always, it's a team effort, and people have been really pulling through. Morale seems to be. People are hanging in and still greeting people with smiles. People had a good time over the holidays. Also, we have a lot of staff likes to take time to spend, and so we had a couple of students who I'm thinking of one student in particular who helped us a lot over the winter. It was great to have her on board and see her again. And now she had classes that started again this week, so she's back and she's able to get some extra hours with us over the holidays, and then we can and then we all benefit. It's really a nice situation. So we wish well our staff members that are going through some challenges right now. There's also been a couple deaths in families and people close to staff. So there's been some challenging times recently, but everybody is pulling through. On the contract update, they keep promising me that they're almost here, and they know that people are. I've just heard yesterday morning that they're aware that things are needed, and so as soon as I have something in my hand, I will let you know. But I've not seen anything. That's still a work in progress. But they are working on it, and I hear that they are progressing. On programming, I know that tonight there's a really exciting program. There's a local, exciting, meaningful program is probably a better adjective, where a survivor of the Holocaust who wrote a book about her experiences and lives here in Norwood is giving a program about escaping the Nazis and as a little girl. So I'm sorry that we can't be there as well. We can't be as
That's
once,
an
but-
impressive thing. I saw it a few years back with this
Yeah.
woman who's something.
There's actually a program being planned in a couple of months with somebody else who actually survived. We have another concentration camp survivor in the area who's going to come and share her story. So people can look for that. I think in March. I can't remember if we have a date for it yet confirmed. I think we do, but it'll be on the calendar. The other thing that I really want to highlight that's getting a lot of really positive buzz is the programs. James mentioned the computer training classes for neurodiverse, the sensory-friendly training classes for adults with different cognitive and processing abilities. We have a sensory-friendly art class. We've had movies. We've moved the date of the movie time, but we're seeing really great turnout and really receiving a lot of really positive feedback from the community, both of people who have cognitive challenges and the people that are supporting them. It's really taken off and found an audience there. Not just, we know people are coming from other neighboring communities from these programs as well. A lot of people are finding a place that really speaks to them, especially the tech classes. We had the first round, and people all over were asking how we did it. It's not something that is, I think, very able to find at all. People and a curriculum that's set up for folks with those different sensory and cognitive needs.
And there was a seed sorting party that
There was, I was,
they,
yeah.
that one of the partner groups participated
with that same
in.
community.
So
Cool.
yeah, some adults who came with companions to
Neat.
help, and that was great too. That's
They can participate.
open to open to anyone.
Neat. In the children's side, in Kate's report, you'll see that all the story times and everything are starting up as well here this week and next, and they're going to be going. Some years they've taken a break, kind of mid-spring, and they're not doing that this year. They realize there's just a huge demand. Basically, as long as the weather can be kind of unpredictable and not necessarily welcoming to be outside, families need to have a place to go, especially with little ones. And so they're doing programs all the way through late April or May. There's a long stretch of weeks here that they were just all geared up and excited to do. So I encourage people to take advantage of those programs.
Great.
Yeah, it's exciting. Maintenance and repair reports. I reported, I think, last month that I was going to do a walkthrough with the architects. We did the walkthrough. Jim and I went through. Of course, we'd had, I think, 50 days in a row with no rain. It was the one day in December, back when it was raining, not snowing, when we had rain all day long. That's when we got to do the walkthrough and walk outside and look up at the roof and figure out where the wire might actually be coming in. And we saw, how the flat roofs are draining here, and it was a good day to actually do the walkthrough. They realized in that walkthrough a need to get some additional expertise as they do the building study. So they are pulling together a final proposal with hard numbers to include all the people that they need, including hazardous material assessment and mitigation. And I asked if that had ever been done in this building before. I asked both Charlotte and Mary if they had any records. There was a town building committee once upon a time, so there is some attempt from folks in town hall to go through old minutes and see if they can find any documentation of hazardous material mitigation in the building. If we don't find that, we will be including that in the study to make sure that there's nothing still here. Sure. It's also possible that even the last time that was done, that our understanding of what constitutes hazardous material has evolved. So it could be just very well founded to do that again to make sure we have a safe environment for everybody to be working in. So I heard from them last week. I expect to be hearing something again in that final proposal here within the next couple of weeks. They're hoping to be able to actually start the work of doing the study in early February. So things are moving quickly now finally, which is very exciting.
Does the stained glass windows?
That is something I talked to them about where we want to situate that. So I'll make sure that it's part of this, or that when I'll have a conversation with them to make sure that we include figuring out where to incorporate the refurbished stained glass windows is part of this process. Yeah. I did talk about that on Twitter.
Okay.
Yeah. And showed the pictures. Yeah.
Good.
And then we have friends of the library who met last week, so we actually have some news.
We actually have some news. Well, the news is that the Friends are continuing their finding ways to support us, which is fantastic. They're entertaining some new, possibly some new programs as well as some other events. They're finding the expense of hosting some of these events is a little bit high, but they're entertaining things like pub crawls perhaps. And then also looking at creating new merchandise like book bags. We're still interested in a stuffed animal that'll be coming along sometime this year as well. And then I know that they changed Casey just informed me that they finalized the date for the fall book sale. It's the last weekend in September now, because they originally had booked it in October with a 3-day weekend, but they decided to go with the end of September, which makes sense. But their membership is going well, and I encourage anyone that wants to join the Friends to please join the Friends of the Library. And it's a great organization, and you can certainly find out all about them. They post a lot on Facebook and the local groups. So,
Yeah, no, the fundraising has been great.
yeah.
And the ongoing book sale downstairs has been going really strongly.
Really has, yeah.
I know the coffee mugs all sold out, so
Yep.
if people miss their opportunity to get one, you got to be quicker next
Gotta
time.
be quick. That's right.
They will be selling
That's
more merch in the future, but I don't know what it's going to be yet.
Yeah.
So
It's a big mystery.
That's right.
All right. Correspondence.
On correspondence, I want to draw your attention in the packet. We always include the look forward to the new fiction and nonfiction, which people can always find on our website. There's a neat packet that there's some additional stuff in here that I didn't really call it anywhere in the packet, so it may have skipped by if you're going through quickly. There's, I know, always a lot to review. Patty put together I assume it was Patty who did this. You can confirm probably.
Yeah, Patty does the fiction, and Kate would have done the nonfiction.
So
list.
together they must have worked on this together. There's a list of the 2024 5-star staff picks. It's a several-page document of the books that staff read, not just published in 24, but that staff read in 24. So some of it's stuff that we read that was published this year, some of it's previous years. If you're looking for a good read, there is some awesome stuff in this pages. So that's just before the correspondence. It's every page that starts with staff picks. So I encourage you to check those out. There's I was reminded of some great reads. And actually, trustees, if you had something that you rated as 5 stars, that would also show up on those lists at the end of the year.
You know, it wasn't until today that I realized that when you're looking at that online, when you're reading them, just by accident, I clicked on one, and you can order the book right from there.
Yep.
I never knew that.
Oh, wow.
You know how the kids go, I was today years old.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow.
Yeah,
Just
these are
saying,
very active
I was
lists.
gonna write that, because I'm so old, write that down, and then later on, go and look that up on Goodreads and see what it was all about, and all of a sudden it came up and it told me what it was all about.
There's a
and I
summary, there's
ordered
Goodreads studies right there.
I ordered the book, and somebody downstairs will send me a note when it's
That's right.
in the library. I was like, well, that is so good, so that is amazing
Yeah, I'm
that
glad
is
you
right
appreciate
there.
it.
I appreciate that so much.
Good.
So I ordered 3 books,
Excellent.
and I'm so
You can
excited.
also freeze hold. So I have a danger. I'll do that, and all of a sudden 6 books will come in on hold, and I'm like, I can't read all these at once. So if I'm doing it clever, you can build a list of things, so you don't have to order them all at once.
Yeah.
Or if you order them and they're on hold, if there's other people waiting for them, you can freeze your hold, and so you actually preserve your space in line. And then whenever you're ready, you can thought, and then you'll get the next available copy,
Well, I
which is a really cool
strategically did
trick.
it because, one had only like 20 in line, and one
There
had
you go.
213 in line. And so, I think they'll come in staggered.
I would encourage you to freeze them though, because that will
Okay,
keep your
that's a good
spot in the
idea.
line,
Thank
and
you.
then when you're ready, you unthought, and you actually get it when you want it.
Yeah, all right, great, thank you.
I
for
always
that.
mean to do that and don't do it myself.
So,
It's
what do you call it, freeze?
Freezing, exactly. Yeah. John?
I'm thinking of something that could be done to further enhance this listing. It goes back to one of my suggestions from the first year I was a trustee.
Okay.
If you're talking about science fiction, there are at least 3 sources of best of awards each year. Mysteries have several.
Yep.
They have finalists as well as the number 1 choice. Here, where you've got a list of the 5-star picks, you could go through and note if they won an award.
Oh, yeah.
And you might also look at the ones that we don't have that did win awards as good candidates
Oh, we
for
certainly,
acquisition.
our selectors are doing that. That's a lot of the work at the end of the year, is looking at those lists to acquire
Okay.
the things. Yeah, absolutely. Figuring out what awards they have won, that would be intriguing. There's so many awards that it could be visually overwhelming, would be my concern. Why we might not go that way. But I love seeing, all the asterisks. Yes, or when it was nominated or won, how many different awards.
Yeah.
Well,
it's a
I'm
good
thinking,
indicator.
I know what you're saying about there's so many awards, but there is also a bit of a hierarchy.
This is true too.
I mean, you've got Hugo and Nebula for science
Right.
fiction. If you want to go to the third one, you go to the Locus,
Right.
and and just forget about the fact that they're British, have their own versions.
Yeah. It's an overwhelming time of year. When we started looking at the best of every year, in so many books, music, movies, it's your list. If you like lists, it's a great time to be.
It's definitely a good time.
A lot of fun.
Yeah.
Correspondence, though, that's all a preface to what I was going to bring attention to in the correspondence item of the agenda. There's a couple of really nice comments here. There was a library worker who lives here in Norwood who talks about seeing an article that he contributed to in American Libraries magazine, a national publication. So that was wonderful. Jane, who's a consultant with the Massachusetts Library System, talked about how we're going to have several staff that are going to be presenting across the state at webinars. So that's really says amazing things about our staff. Nice little note in here from the head of from the Mass Board of Library Commissioners that was sent to everybody across the state, and I just said, I included my little note wishing them happy holidays, and just wanted to share, the high esteem that our staff has in the state. I thought that was a really nice note from Celeste. Cashman shared a note about the professionalism of our staff as well, so that's in here. I know many people know him. And then the last part of the correspondence was a piece that was a late-breaking addition. This is even bigger. There was a little postcard that got blown up here. This just crossed my desk actually just in the last few days, but it's the new legislative agenda for this state, for the Mass Board of Library Commissioners. This is, when you go, that's one side and the other is this, and it outlines the actual state budget lines, what they've been funded at historically, and the request for FY26. They are looking for increases on every line while doing specific targets, and you can learn more about them on the website that's listed here. But if you find yourself a little bit extra time to advocate for library funding, we are in the middle of budget season as these are coming together, and it's the time to contact and make sure that our legislators know that these are the priorities for the state for funding the libraries. So that's the correspondence piece.
Fantastic.
But I encourage you to be familiar with these 6 lines, and to see what's there. Some good stuff. And we've also got amazing support. I just had yesterday, I had my orientation, my first board meeting as a member of the board of the Massachusetts Library System, and was impressed by the great support that libraries in the Commonwealth have appreciated from the state over the last couple of years. It's really been fabulous to appreciate, and I hope that we can sustain it and see continued support.
Definitely. All right, old business. As far as I know, none of the trustee committees met.
We had the one follow-up when Marguerite and I spoke.
Yep.
And when Marguerite and I spoke, we looked at the, do you want me to speak for you? Or?
No, yeah.
Okay.
No, you speak.
Okay, we looked at the bylaws, and there was one as a follow-up from the conversation we had last week about financial fiduciary responsibilities and ways to make sure that you as trustees are supporting the library and myself through the budgetary process. A suggestion that one word be included to make sure that trustees are included in formal meetings in the budgetary process. So that would be a bylaw amendment. And we put in new business an annual review of the trustee bylaws, which is something that also bylaws say they will be reviewed regularly. So I think that could be a topic for the ad hoc committee is what I would suggest. We have a meeting of the ad hoc committee. So that's something we can schedule next to look at both that addition of the word formal and if there's any
Right.
other changes need to be made.
Yeah.
But I wanted to make sure we paid respect to the conversation last
Sure,
month.
absolutely.
The other piece, finance, I guess we can get to that in new business. So,
Okay, and then, well, patrons in the
Patrons
library.
There's been a lot of patrons in the library. We are working, I actually have a training tomorrow on library signage, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Okay.
We know that the parking lot signs, if you've noticed them in the daylight, they've become very bleached. They need to be replaced. So I'm working with the facilities department, the Department of Public Works. I'm going to attend this training tomorrow and see if I get any tips from there. I consulted with the chief of police to see if there was anything we needed for enforcement reasons. And so we'll be looking at some new external signage there
Great,
to welcome patrons to the library.
very nice.
Was tossing around. I guess I'll put it out here. We were tossing. I was looking at the idea of limiting. Saying there's some kind of limit to how long people can park in the parking lot. I floated that by staff, and we've gotten several people who's concerned that there are a lot of people who spend more than a couple hours at a time here. So now I'm leaning towards just saying, parking reserved for library users. It would be reserved for library users all the time because we have Wi-Fi. People can park here anytime that they need to use library resources. But I don't think we want to put necessarily a limit on how long that is because we have regular people who come for much more than 2 hours at a time. So looking forward, if Norway does have a time when parking is at a much higher crisis, we may want to consider. I've seen a lot of places where it was more, there was just more demand for parking, where there was a need to put some kind of limit, but I don't think Norway's there, and I don't see us being there for the foreseeable future. So unless I hear a compelling argument otherwise, it can be a disincentive to have people think, oh, this really isn't a limit, right? People are watching this parking closer. But talking to staff, they're like, this is going to cause a lot of people to be uptight and concerned. We'll have to explain, no, it's okay. If you're using the library, you're good.
Yeah, right.
We don't need to cause that. And so this is part of my experience in more dense places where there was much more demand for parking than we experience right now here in Norwood. So knock on wood, we will be able to sustain and just have fresh signs.
Yeah.
And still give us the ability to enforce if we discover somebody's been parking there for an exorbitant amount of time and is not using the library.
It seems wise to me.
Right.
Yeah.
How would you know they're not using the library though?
Well, let's say something's parked there for a couple days on end.
Oh,
right?
okay, all right, yeah, all
or-
right, yeah, I see.
I've worked in places where you
Yeah.
watch them park a car and then go get on a train. Pretty good sign when you watch them walk to something else and then
okay.
get out of town.
Yeah, no, okay, yeah, I get it.
We
yeah.
are close enough to commuter rail that
Right.
somebody could do that from here,
Sure.
but it's not as likely.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure, okay.
You don't know.
No, yeah, I mean, if somebody is abusing it, it's hard to turn down.
And sometimes you see cars, not here, but I've seen them elsewhere where it's obvious that people are living in the car.
Well, yeah, that's an
Yeah.
issue too.
Yeah. All right, new business. As you mentioned, Clayton, we're going to set up a meeting, the ad hoc committee, to review the bylaws. And reach out to Casey and we can get that process started. We'll set that up. Of course, everyone is welcome to attend if they would like, not just the ad hoc committee.
Could you remind us who's on the ad hoc committee?
The ad hoc is you and Jerry.
Yeah.
And then George, if he wishes to join
Yes.
you as the chair.
Yes.
Of course you will, right?
Oh, of course I'll do
Of course.
I wouldn't
That's
want to
right.
miss that.
And then
On to
call
the-
for another subcommittee meeting for finance. I included in the packet the draft budget because the town finance director contacted me in December and wanted to have a conversation. We went line by line through. It was not a formal meeting at all. It was an informational meeting. But he's now working with Tony on preparing it, so I think it's time to go through and make sure that the finance committee has a firm understanding, and then we can bring any concerns here to the greater body. So.
So refresh our memories on that. I'm on it, right? Am I?
That's I don't have that in front of me, and I don't know off the top of my head. Does anybody have note of that, or I can send a note?
Okay, I
Yeah,
think
I
I'm
don't
on it.
remember who composed it this
What?
year.
Yeah, I think
Finance.
Finance?
Yes,
It's George.
George.
Fraser.
Yeah.
you and I.
There you go.
The three of us.
Excellent.
All right, that's what I thought.
All right, so
Yeah.
we'll
So we'll schedule a meeting for that.
right as well. Search warrants.
There have been no search warrants.
Oh,
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah.
I like it when that happens.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, I like being able to say that. I have no miscellaneous advisors this month.
Oh,
It's really a placeholder. We hope that we never have to worry about that line, but it's
I know.
it's there to catch us in case we do.
We have to bring it up.
That's right.
All right. Would anyone like to make any remarks that they have not already remarked upon? No?
Great.
No? All right, can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting then?
Motion
okay.
to adjourn the meeting.
A second? John, seconds, all right. The meeting has been adjourned.
Great.
Thank you
Yeah,
for
we actually
attending.
need to
Vote.
vote.
Oh, yeah, can we have a vote? I'm sorry.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. Thanks for reminding me, yes.